One of the main questions that has been asked since the beginning of this pandemic is why why do people lose their smell? And there's this whole theory about the virus affects the nose and that's what creates a loss of smell. But when we know the five biological laws and we know exactly which survival programs get activated with unique stressful situations, we know that the nasal mucosa and the nerves, the olfactory nerves that go straight up into the brain, are very connected to a unique biological response. And one of the main purposes of our nose is the sense of smell, is to perceive smell. And this is a totally biological, primitive function that we have in our body. We have it since the beginning of existence of humanity on this planet. And it's a very vital function that helps us to detect, number one, where I can get food, where I can get my nourishment for survival, and at the same time, to perceive where there's a threat for me, where there's danger. We are animals, we are mammals, and this is one of our most important senses, sense of smell. And it's a unique guide for us to really know where is safe for me, where I can go and where I can get my nourishment, and where is not safe and where I need to get away from. Now, when we see the effects of trauma on the body, the trauma means when we experience situations that are too much for us. We cannot process in time, in intensity, through our resources that we have. So when we experience trauma, there's different responses in our system, which is fight, flight, or freeze. And if we manage to escape or to fight and come out of that situation, then the whole system, our biology manages to process that impact, and we stay in a healthy state, we can say it like this. But when we stay in this state, when we receive a shocking situation, a situation that's too much for us, and we stay like that for a prolonged period of time, meaning that if my nose, the main objective of my nose is to help me detect where it's safe and where it's not, where I can survive and where I cannot, and since the beginning of this pandemic, this story with the virus, it has become so uncertain, so difficult to detect where it's safe, where it's not safe, where there's threat, where there isn't. Something smells good here, something doesn't smell. They're giving me all kinds of opinions and theories and new concepts of transmission and death and cases and all of this constantly. So this creates an overwhelming situation for our system that is too much for many people to handle, and that it creates this fight, flight, or freeze response, which most commonly gets frozen in this specific part of the body, because it implies the kind of frozenness of that capacity to detect danger or safety. Yeah. So if a person is experiencing this with all the misinformation and fear and everything that is out there, then their sense of smell, that biological, physiological function, is going to go into a frozen state, and this creates a loss of sense of smell. Yeah. So also because many people think, as primitively, because we detect danger like that as mammals, and there's this virus where we cannot smell it, really. We cannot smell a virus. So it creates even more this tension in the system that activates even more that frozen state in the nose. Now, this is one part of the sense of smell. The other part is when we start using mouth coverings, because then that also impedes, that even puts another blockage on top of our nose to help us detect this danger or safety. So when we put that on top, that aggravates the situation even more. Of course, there's other direct side effects of incubation of other microorganisms there, and loss of oxygenation for the body, and that there's other direct effects of this face coverings. But secondarily, it affects also our sense of smell and our sense of safety, because it impedes us from smelling really where it's safe and where it's not. And at the same time, it also activates a sense of fear when we see somebody else with their face closed, because we cannot really detect what's happening, what they're really expressing, if it's safe or not, if if they are pleasant people to be with or not, or if they are threatening or not. Our eyes are also connected with this detecting if it's safe or not. And when a person is covered in their face, we cannot really discern if that person is safe, if I feel trust, if I feel at ease, if I want to be there or not, or if there's danger. So indirectly, by covering the face, that activates even more the frozenness in our nasal mucosa, which can activate even more the loss of smell. So this is just another perspective of what's happening when it makes it much easier to understand when we know the 5 biological laws, when we have studied body medicine, because then we know the 5 biological laws and we know exactly how the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems act in different organs of the body. And when we know that, then we can really go in depth and understand each symptom and each part of the body. I just described to you one symptom right now, which is loss of smell, which has been studied for 40 years since the discovery of the 5 biological laws, and it fits totally with the circumstances that we've been living since the last 13 months with this pandemic. So yeah, there's so much more to know about the other symptoms related to this virus, which are not directly created by the virus, but by what people are experiencing in this completely new, unique, and overwhelming environment and dynamics that are happening in their lives right now.